ring the alarm
on this episode of Simply Necessary Conversations.
So post-election season always spurs up some things that people never knew before, or, all these different terms or historical facts or whatever that might not normally be talked about. And one of them I noticed online was the 4B movement that started in South Korea, actually. And it's described as, let me read it exactly so I don't mess it up. 4B is a radical feminist movement which is purported to have originated in South Korea in 2019. Its proponents refuse to date men, get married, have sex with men, or have children. So it's typically like a reaction to something political, something that happened society-wise that made women say, you know what, actually, never mind. Y'all are going to be on ice for a little bit. So what do you think about this? Do you think that it's effective? Do you think that people should be doing it? People shouldn't be doing it?
I don't know how it could work.
What do you mean?
And when I say I don't know how it could work, okay, if the South Korean men are like the American men, women refusing to be sexually active with them, they're just going to go cheat. They're just going to go find.
No, but it's not even just that. They're not dating men, so they're not worried about them cheating because they're not dating them.
Well, what I'm saying is while there's going to be a group of feminists maybe that don't date men, there's going to be some other women that like welcome them in. Women are not going to be unified. Like, it's not going to be every woman. So they'll just go find who's willing. Just like they do with everything else. They will go find somebody that's willing to put up with their crap, that's not going to push them, question them, whatever. They'll just go find somebody else. So, I mean, it might work for you in that you might feel better about yourself that you're not engaging with men, but there's going to be some heifer that will. So I
feel like it could work politically and socially just because if enough women do it, then it will have an impact.
But they won't.
I feel like there's
election is proof that women are not going to stick together on, and especially will there be a group of women that will stick with that program and stand firm?
I think if you add into play them putting their body at risk, that yes, enough women will do something to make somewhat of an impact, at least socially. Maybe not politically, but I think at least socially it will change things if enough people decide to do it. I feel like it's also more of a thing for younger women. Older women, I don't see necessarily talking about it or
maybe that's why I don't like
being involved in it. But I think for younger women, there's a lot of younger women that are already sick of men in general. Mm-hmm. So this would just be an added there's a reason.
I thought it was the other way. I thought it was the older women that have lived with them.
I think there's a lot of younger women that are just like, you know what, I'm focusing on my career. I'm focusing on my friends. And if I have a family one day, cool. If I don't, okay. So I feel like this might just be an added incentive to not making dating a priority. I feel like there's
a whole movement here of decentering men, like not making men, because we all have gone through it, especially in our younger days where we were boy crazy and then man crazy, where we felt like, okay, I need a man. You feel incomplete unless you got a man. But lately women are a lot of it too is because women are starting to realize how much men are leaving them in the lurch. Like, men are not riding for them, standing for them, not protecting them, regardless of what your political points of view are. There were people that ran for election who had their wives insulted terribly, like talked about terribly, and they still continued to deal with the person that was insulting their wives. And I don't know how you as a wife, like, I don't know money is a thing, and I get you got to make a living, and I get you don't want to give up a lifestyle, but your husband having to let a man insult you, not even privately, not in a subtle way, but in front of the world, like literally in front of the world. So he insults you in front of the world, and then your husband goes and makes nice with him. Like, I'm built different. I'm a different kind of chick. Calling me no. There's a certain amount of pride. There's a certain amount of integrity that you got to maintain. And when you are with a man that does not care enough about you to protect you in rooms where you're at and rooms where you're not, that's enough to make you say, you know what, I don't need him.
I feel like this movement doesn't necessarily apply to everybody, though. Like, I feel like I should be exempt because my man acts right.
And see, you're the woman that's going to be the problem.
No, I'm not.
You're going to be the problem because you're going to say, but my man doesn't do that.
But my man voted for what I told him to vote for.
Well, yeah, he gets points for that. But what I'm saying is there's going to be always a woman or a couple women or however many women that say,
I feel like
I don't support the movement because in this way it doesn't apply to me.
But I feel like if you combine, there's going to be some women that say, you know what, F it, I'm not dealing with men anymore. They're over in that category. And then I feel like there's a lot of women that I know that got their boyfriends, that got their husbands, that got their significant others, that got their talking stages to vote in their best interest.
So maybe that's a better option.
But I feel like the combination might change some things a little bit.
I guess.
Like, there's a lot of people that I know voted because they also like wanted to vote. They wanted to have their civic, responsibility done. They wanted to have a voice in what, happened in the election. But they also were peer pressured by their women.
Yeah.
And
it shouldn't have even been peer pressure. It should have been that if there were issues that were going to affect the person that you claim to love.
When I say peer pressure, I mean it makes them think about things that they're not going to think about normally.
Yeah,
because if you're not a specific race or gender or like you don't have a specific political view, you're not going to be thinking about some of the stuff that your partner might be thinking about. Yeah. And if they bring that perspective to the table, then all of a sudden you're going to be a lot more aware. Like, you're going to be a lot more concerned.
Some of it with decent people was just simply educating them. If there were people that, I didn't know or I had never thought about. So, yeah, I guess. But, like, I think any extreme movement, like anything that's to the extreme never works. Like, you got to find some common ground.
Because,
find somewhere in the middle.
Girl, you don't really unless you happen to already be like bi or you're already lesbian, you don't mean that you're not gonna somebody's gonna come along, you're gonna fall in love, and then that's a wrap on the movement. Like,
or you might just simply get bored and be like, you know what, I don't want I don't want to keep hanging out with these chicks. I'm going to find.
Because there's a difference between hanging out with your girls and hanging out with your man. That's a completely different vibe. Yeah. And I feel like most people are going to crave that eventually in their lives. Even if this is something that like goes on for a year, at a point you're going to be like, actually, I'm a little tired.
Well, at 2, I think age is going to come into play because the younger me would have probably broken like, nah, let me go. Like, I need to, but because of my age, because I've kind of done all the things and I'm at a certain place in my life and I'm valuing myself more. I realized the other day, I had this conversation with myself the other day. I was like, you know what, self? Everybody that I was involved with in the past was somebody I just settled for. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, there was something wrong with all of them. There was something that I deeply disliked about all of them.
Well, that's a problem.
But yeah, I mean, and I'm sure they would say the same thing about me and I don't care. But it was like, I just realized that none of them ever, and I don't mean give me everything I want or do everything I ask you to do, but just like none of them kept the promises that I should say it that way. They made promises and said they were going to be or act or whatever. So none of them ever did all of the things that they said they were going to do. Forget what I wanted them to do. They didn't do what they said. And because of that, I'm like, you know what? I'm good with just being by myself because I'm not going to disappoint me. Like, I'm going to do crazy stuff sometimes, but I'm not going to disappoint me. So I understand the whole, you know what? I'd rather be alone.
But I think, like you said, that's because you experienced marriage for 30 years. You experienced having a family. You experienced having me.
And that's why, like, I can be like, I'm good over here.
At this stage of my life, I can never say that I would be okay being by myself. Yeah. Like, obviously, I will survive being by myself if I had to. And that's the thing, too. Yeah, like you can do it. I'm capable of, like, maintaining my own life. Yeah. But I could never say, like, I don't want to have kids.
Yeah. Well, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't want to be with somebody. What I'm saying is before I settle again, before I deal with somebody, and I don't mean they got to be perfect. I don't mean they got to check all about.
I think if I was,
but I'd rather. Right now, I'm good. I'm taking care of myself. I'm paying my bills. I'm gonna unless you're coming to add to my life. There's no point.
I think if I was in a toxic relationship, then maybe I'd be more apt to join this movement. But I'm happy, so like I'm kind of like, y'all think it's gonna be
the women that are happily in a relationship. They're not joining the cause.
But like I said, I think the women that are happily in a relationship, that
They're gonna
feel the
bring
way
their
that I
people
feel about
along.
things, they're going to bring people
Yeah.
along, and they're going to start educating.
Yeah,
and
then
join the
now let's
movement.
don't sleep on the fact that some of the women that started this movement, they weren't gonna get a man anyway. So like they just like decided to let's speak truth to power. Let's be honest. Some of those women use this movement as an excuse or a justification for being alone because they knew they weren't gonna get a man in the first place. I'm gonna keep it real.
I did not say that.
I said it. Some of them knew that they weren't gonna get a man, so why not? Let's do it.
I do think sometimes
let's create a cause that will make me feel a little bit better about it. I'm just being honest.
I do think sometimes feminism can be used as a coping mechanism.
Yes, just being honest. Now, feminists, don't come for me.
But I would never describe myself as a radical feminist.
Yeah, I'm not either.
I'm a feminist. I believe in women's rights.
Women's rights. I believe equal work for equal pay and all that. But I'm still a girl.
At the end of the day,
I still like guys. But yeah, it's like, so you got to be careful with. We can talk about it maybe in another segment, because you can join a cause and be riding for, and then the people that started the cause will be over there doing the exact thing that they were claiming they were against if it serves them. And I've learned that.
And I also think that feminism for minorities is different. There's a whole different undertone because our history is completely different.
While we fight for the right to work, because we've been working all our lives.
Exactly. Like it's a little bit different.
I don't want to be a stay-at-home.
I don't completely know all of the history, but I'm pretty sure I did learn this. So if I'm misspeaking, whoops. But a lot of people were putting, like a lot of women were putting their I voted stickers on Susan B. Anthony's grave, which number one is kind of like you're a little bit defiling her grave.
Yeah,
like you're not supposed to do that.
I wouldn't do that.
But people were saying that Susan B. Anthony did not support black women having the right to vote.
And see, and that's the thing.
So it was kind of like,
I mean, did black women benefit from her work? Obviously, yes. But you just got to be careful, because sometimes you're saying the same words but not meaning the same thing. I have learned that in my 50
I feel like in any movement, there's going to be a segment of people that are going to be like, except for them.
Yeah.
Like, we want this.
So you got to be
except
careful.
for them.
You got to be careful.
So
with
it just
that.
depends.
So like, don't put yourself out until you know. Don't put yourself out there until you know the underlying causes and you know the history. Like, you need to find out, because a lot of times you might be out there marching with some people and they got you marching, but they don't plan on you being a part of the victory celebration. Yeah. You need to know who you're dealing with. Yeah.
So
for real.
In conclusion for this conversation, I will forever be a feminist, but it will forever be my man. Well, for anyone questioning.
Yeah.
Just you being like, whatever that means.
Whatever, child.
But let me put y'all on the topic of elections and politics and all that. We just want to remind you guys that it's important to not get your news from Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok.
Please don't.
Actually have to watch real news. Actual news on the TV.
On multiple networks.
In a newspaper.
Do not choose
from
just
a journalist.
One. Yeah, do not choose just one network to watch. Watch a diverse range of networks so that you can get all sides and then make an informed decision. Because, a lot of people, when they went to the polls this year, went to the polls based on sound bites. They went to the polls based on social media.
They went to the polls based on deep fakes.
They went to the based on complete misinformation. So we want everybody to vote, but we want everybody to be informed voters. Do not go and vote based on something you heard or secondhand information. You got to be educated so that you make choices, because a lot of people voted against their own interests because they did not know the truth.
Just to keep it frank, I want everybody to vote, but I want you to vote for who I voted for.
Well, we want that, but what we preferably, but what we want
I
is
want my side to win. But
hopefully that's based on the fact that you think that the people that you voted for
obviously
were in the right.
Because I feel
and
like
everybody thinks that.
I feel like the rules have been thrown to the side for however many years now, 8, 7, 6, 10, I don't know.
10.
Ever since I was 16, so almost 10 years. But I feel like you should encourage people to vote, but saying I don't care who you vote for is fake. You're lying.
I ain't never told nobody that.
I saw a lot of videos where people were saying...
you have to say that at work, because you can't talk politics
I have
at work.
To say that at work. That's not how I feel.
You have to say that, if you're in a house of worship, because you're not supposed to be campaigning. But in regular, everyday life...
Regardless of what side you're on, when you tell people to vote, and I don't care who you're lying.
Well, what you should do is tell them to vote and then educate them on the issues, and not in a biased way, but show them facts. Because you are entitled to your own opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts, because facts are facts. So when you tell people you want them to vote, make sure you give them some outlets and some ways to educate themselves so that they know who to vote
and that's why we're saying to look at different forms of media, because regardless of how unbiased journalism is, as a journalist myself, regardless of how unbiased it is, people are human and they're going to make their reports as unbiasedly biased as they can.
Yeah, and some shows that people think are news shows, they are not actually news shows.
A lot of the commentators, listen to what I just said, commentators on MSNBC, for example. MSNBC. Yeah. Thank you. They are not journalists.
Right.
There's a difference between a journalist, a correspondent. They're not the same thing.
Well, that's true of CNN. That's true of all the networks. There are some shows that are news shows that are supposed to be based in facts. And then there are some shows that are political entertainment shows where the commentators are giving their opinions. And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with
giving your opinion. As long as you know what you're watching.
But you cannot take what one correspondent said as pure fact without fact checking it yourself and fact checking it in the right place. Do not do a search on TikTok and see some rant. Like, for instance, in the past episode that we have done, you thought that Aretha Franklin was singing a Glorilla song, which obviously was not the case.
Well, y'all educated me on that, and we don't have to bring that back up. Thank you.
Things like that are what scare me about modern technology when we're talking about society and politics, because so much is not true. Yeah. So much is blatantly a lie, and people are not seeing the facts. People are being snowed. They're seeing what they want to see. Like I'll say time and time again, I despise filter bubbles, because what I'm seeing on my, like, for instance, in this election season, what I saw on my For You page was not what actually happened. So you need to be looking, you need to be talking to friends that believe different things. You need to be looking up things. You don't need to just believe what everyone is just spewing out there.
I want to backtrack because MSNBC is my station. You know,
but they're not journalists.
They're not journalists. But I am partial to them because I am somewhat liberal in my thinking. And I also feel like a lot of the social commentators on there think similarly to me. However, I do try to look at other news outlets as well. You need to kind of hear the other side. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes when I try to listen to the other side, it's sickening to me because the stuff that they say can be, I cannot honest and check me if you want to, come in the comments, say whatever you want to say. Based on the years that I've been watching certain shows, I've never heard anybody on MSNBC be mean, malicious, hateful, nasty. I have not heard that. There are some networks where I have seen that. I've seen bias on MSNBC. Like, it's very obvious.
Yes,
that there's a bias. There's a bias on CNN. There's a bias on Fox and Friends. There's biases everywhere. But you gotta kind of at least try to allow for a place for all of it, and then filter it through your brain.
I think the issue is a lot of people just wait to be told what to do by their favorite political figure, by their favorite correspondent, by their favorite journalist. Yeah. No. A vote, at the end of the day,
there's a lot of people.
At the end of the day, I will not lie and say I don't care who you vote for, because I absolutely do.
Yeah, I do
but
too.
Vote for your own best interest.
Yeah.
And that's what I will always say is vote for your own best interest. There's a lot of people
that did not do that. And what was shocking to me was the number of people that voted against their best interest and justified it, like argued.
It's because some people only watch one channel. And that's the problem. Gosh. That's always going to be the problem.
But there's a lot of groups that I will not be marching with, fighting for whatever, because they basically threw everybody else under the bus for what they thought was their best interest, and it wasn't. So,
well, moving on. So for what had happened was, I found this to be very interesting, and I predict that we're gonna have two different perspectives on this. So we'll see if my prediction is right.
Yeah, let's see.
But a groom called off his wedding after his bride, quote, felt hurt over him using a lab-grown diamond ring, and she demanded a $20,000 alternative. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like our thoughts are going to be a little bit different.
Well, I personally don't like lab-grown diamonds, but that's just me. However, the audacity to demand a certain ring from somebody, when somebody proposes to you, they're coming with a ring that they, number one, can afford, Number 2, that they like, the one that they want to give to you. So unless you have a certain kind of relationship, you either accept said ring, or if you have this type of relationship where you have open dialogue and you can say, well, this wasn't exactly what I wanted. Can we go and us together pick something that I like and that you can afford? Because see, that's the conversation that you should have as adults. Yeah. You're getting something that I like, but also something that you can afford. To make a demand of a ring that costs a specific amount of money, if I was him, I'd be throwing up the deuces.
I think a $20,000 ring is ridiculous.
Like, and even that's crazy. Why are you walking around with that?
Even if I am exceptionally wealthy, do not get me a $20,000 ring. Get me a $20,000 car. Get me a $20,000.
Well, you don't want a $20,000
retirement
car. You
fund.
want $20,000 applied to the car, because it ain't too many decent cars you can get for $20,000.
I don't really care about cars, so you can get me
I don't care about
car
cars
and I'd be happy.
No, trust me, there's not a $20,000 car.
I don't really know how much cars cost.
But there it is, there, because you haven't bought one yet. But no,
my car was paid for by others.
I'm other, y'all. I'm other.
But whatever the case may be, I don't want a $20,000 ring. I would be scared to death that I lose the $20,000
Yeah, I would be afraid of losing it.
But in terms of lab-grown diamonds, I really don't care. As long as it looks like a diamond, I don't really care.
Well, I'm old school. I want a real, regular, nature-produced diamond, but it does not have to be $20,000.
But who's going to know? Who's going to know?
I'm going to know.
I don't care.
I'm going to know.
As long as it looks pretty on my hand.
Yeah.
And I'm getting married, I don't care.
I'm going to know. I would rather have a less expensive real diamond than
I would rather have a pretty lab-grown diamond.
Well, see, you're right. We're disagreeing on that.
Yeah, no. I'd rather have a pretty lab-grown diamond.
I'm old school.
I'd rather use...
Because I don't know. For some reason, I don't trust the lab-grown diamond situation. I feel like years from now, they're going to be the cubic zirconian of jewelry. Like somehow they're going to. I'm
never going to sell my ring. So who cares if it holds its value or not?
Well, you might not plan on selling it, but in theory, if it's yours and then you have kids, somebody is going to end up with it. Like, to me, jewelry like that, like I wear
my kids better get their own ring.
But to me, when you buy a wedding ring specifically, it's kind of like an investment. Because I can remember when we got my second ring, the guy that we bought it from was a diamond broker, and he said, at any point in time that you decide you don't want this ring, you can come back and I will always give you 100% of your money, because it's only going to increase in value. I don't know if lab-grown diamonds are going to increase in value.
I don't plan on selling my ring.
I didn't plan on that either, but I still feel like, well, if that's the case, okay, so riddle me this. If you don't care if it's lab-grown, why not just dismiss getting a diamond altogether? Just get a cubic. If you just care about how it looks, then why spend good money on that?
No, because I want it to still cost some money.
Well, to me, that's counterintuitive. If you don't care about
cubic zirconian is that okay? That's the difference between.
But there's some gorgeous cubic zirconian.
No, that's the difference between saying, I don't want designer shoes. I want Nikes. I didn't say I want to go to Walmart and get some sneakers that are $5. I said I wanted a $300 shoe versus a $3,000 shoe.
I don't know jewelry enough to know what's the difference between a lab-grown diamond and a cubic zirconian. No, and a cubic zirconian.
Oh, what's the difference? A cubic zirconian is plastic, basically.
I don't know.
A lab-grown diamond is literally a diamond that was just pressurized by technology and not a rock.
And see, for me, I am a very black and white type of person. There's no such thing as a lab-grown diamond, in that by definition, diamonds are formed in a certain kind of way. So if you call it a lab-grown diamond, to me, that is oxymoronic. There's no such thing as a lab-grown diamond. You got a stone that is that looks like a diamond, but for me, a diamond has to be dug up from God's earth after being under pressure for thousands of years.
It says lab-grown diamonds are as real as diamonds mined from the earth. Lab-grown diamonds are identical to earth-mined diamonds in every way, except that they are grown in a lab. I frankly do not care.
Said the lab-grown diamond people. Because
I think
they're not. I don't care. No. That's the lab-grown diamond people are saying that because they want to sell them.
This isn't just lab-grown. Like, this is literal science. Like, it's the same material.
No. I can't think of right now off the top of my head an analogy. But no, by definition, a diamond has always been a certain thing. Now we're going to change. Well, they're changing now all the definitions, everything else anyway. But no, I want a real diamond. I want one that came out there. Now, would I know the difference by looking at it? Probably not. Just I would not want him to go and get a lab-grown diamond because it was bigger and less expensive. I'd rather have a smaller, natural diamond. That's just me. It kind of reminds me of when I was getting my ring too. They were selling the colored diamonds, which are very popular now, and I like some of the colors, but they had what they called chocolate diamonds. And when I asked the diamond broker about it, he was like, all it is those are cheap diamonds, and by giving them a cute name, now they can sell them more readily, and people want them.
But in terms of the lab-grown diamond, it's this exact same material. Mm-hmm. It's the exact same thing.
That's what they're telling y'all.
You just know that it was grown in a lab.
That's what they're telling y'all.
I don't care. Well, as long as it looks like a diamond. Yeah, literally, you can get a diamond tester and touch it, and it'll still say that it's a real diamond. You're just saving thousands of dollars.
Well, for me, at this point, I still have to get married. Yeah, you still got to get married. And even if I were to get married again, like, I'm not gonna get stuck on the ring. Now, don't be stupid.
I don't want no tiny little itty bitty teeny tiny. Like wait until it's a decent size.
Yeah. Well, it just depends on.
I'm telling you right now, when my man comes to ask for your blessing, and he says, "Do you think she'll care? Like, do you really think that she'll care about a lab grown?" Tell him. I think
he already knows. I think. I thought you were going to say, "Would you care about the size of the diamond?" You saying the lab grown.
Oh no, we had this conversation like 3 months into our relationship. He knows he knows what shape I want. Mm-hmm. He knows what size I want. Mm-hmm. He knows I want gold and not silver. He knows all of this already.
Well, I think it's just a matter of preference, but I personally am not with the lab grown. I feel like some years down the line, they're going to come back and say that was a whole big mistake.
Years down the line, am I going to care? No, because I'm going to be old. I'm gonna be worried about my lung health. I'm not gonna worry about the diamond.
When you boil it down to that, then none of it matters. Like,
no, I'm just saying, like, I feel like it matters in terms of, as a woman, there is a certain thing of people are going to say, let me see there's a certain level of.
There's people that can afford the best diamonds in the world that say that they wear costume jewelry because, number one, they don't want to get robbed. Number two, they travel a lot. I think Adrienne Bailon was the one that said that she had a fake ring.
And I think Kim K started wearing a fake one after she got
for
robbed.
Me, I don't like real jewelry other than the investment part of it. Like, I don't like real jewelry because it's too easy to lose it. Like, I have real jewelry. I have diamonds. I have gold and stuff that I don't wear and I keep somewhere locked up because I don't want to take a chance on getting robbed or losing or whatever and stuff. So I'd rather put it in a safe deposit box and keep it over there because it's an investment. Like, gold is not going to lose its value, but like, I don't want to just have it because like that's just inviting trouble. So
yeah, like, now don't get me. I don't want fake gold, but the lab grown diamond, like, I don't care. I just want a pretty ring.
I think
at the end of the day, I'm just a girl. I just want a pretty ring. Mm-hmm. But speaking of buying rings and debating lab grown versus real or whatever, a lot of people have been talking about this. I think DDG mentioned it or some other celebrity for Halo, his son, about buying designer clothes. Mm-hmm. So for Ask a Gemini, do you think you should be buying babies and kids designer clothes? I feel like this is specifically a huge thing in the Black community of like buying babies designer things and passing them down or whatever, but do you think it's a waste of money?
I absolutely do. And you wore not one. Well, you had one maybe designer baby outfit, and that's because at a baby shower, some of my coworkers bought it for you. Babies, number one, don't know what they have on. Like, babies have no idea. Number two, for me, the top priority for baby clothes was, were they comfortable? Were they soft? Were they comfortable? Because that's all that you were aware of. And babies grow so fast, it's a waste of money. I just don't see the point. I barely see the point of designer clothes for adult people, let alone babies. No, ma'am, no, sir. There is no point. And sometimes people have to, y'all, I'm being so shady today. Sometimes people have to dress their babies up because their baby's not cute, and they got to let the outfit like take away from the unfortunateness of their babies. Babies don't know what they got on. And putting them on all them fancy clothes is not going to change them. It's not going to make them smarter. It's not going to make them healthier. It's not going to do anything. So, yes, I think it's a waste of money. I don't care how much money you got. I think it's a waste of money because they're only going to be able to wear it. And a lot of times, especially when you're dealing with a baby, like a newborn baby, that newborn outfit might get worn twice if you're lucky. And by the time you get ready to put it on the baby again, they are too big for it.
I think that is very dumb. I don't buy designer stuff for myself, even though I can afford to if I wanted to. I'm not going to because, like, what's the point?
Yeah, because why am I wearing somebody else's name? Now, if they started,
closest thing I'll do is I might buy some semi-expensive shoes because I feel like shoes are like a little bit different.
I pay extra for shoes for comfort, but it's not even name
brand.
You're
at that age. You're at that age where you have to do
comfortable shoes, and I pay extra money for comfort, but I'm not paying for a name.
I'll pay a little extra for a name for shoes. But in terms of clothes, I feel like especially basics. Like people will pay for designer T-shirts and designer jeans. Like no one is looking at that. No one is looking at that. I can see maybe like a designer jacket or a purse, something that is obviously unique.
I'm not anti-designer in that if I saw something that I really like and it happened to be designer, I might buy it, but I'm not going looking for
and
that label.
And I will
when
say,
I shop.
no, I'm not going to buy my baby Marc Jacobs clothes, but they're not going to have Marky J like knockoff.
You wore what was cute and comfortable.
Yeah, but I'm saying like I'm not gonna buy designer, and I'm also not gonna buy knockoff. They're just gonna be dressed in regular everyday clothes, but they're not gonna be dressed in like fake Gucci.
Okay, what's the point of that? But what I won't do is, I personally, forgive me, all of you thrifty people, I won't put my child in used clothes.
No, I'm not doing that.
I won't do thrift. Like a lot of people believe in thrifting. I just personally feel like there could be bad juju on something.
I feel like there's some things that are thriftable, and then there's other things that are not thriftable. Like a handbag is thriftable.
I used to say that there were certain things that I don't want anything thrifted now. And not because I think I'm too good for it, but just because I believe that things carry energy and the user of that particular thing. And I don't know whose house it is. And when years ago, my cousin had a coworker, I think she said, who thrifted. That she would not buy anything new. Everything was thrifted. Her daughter ended up with an incurable disease on her feet because the lady bought something from, like, some shoes that had...
Buying thrifted shoes is nasty work.
Like that. I worry about stuff like that.
I'm not buying thrifted shoes.
So, like, more so from a hygiene perspective and just a spiritual perspective, I don't want to buy used stuff for the simple fact that I don't know who had it before me.
And it depends on what it is.
Now,
like
I'm not cheap, but
if it's a bag, then I feel like there's only so much nasty things somebody can do with a handbag. If it's something that can be cleaned off, then that's a little bit different. But I personally
used, unless it's somebody I know. Like, I'll take a hand-me-down from somebody I know, a family member or a friend, depending on who the family member or friend. But not from strangers.
I don't want used clothes. A lot of my friends love thrifting. I've never gotten into it.
I don't even want used furniture. I don't because I just feel like you don't know.
Now, this might not be true of other people because sizing and stuff is different. But for me, anything I can get cheap in a thrift store, I can get cheap just going to the store, going to clearance, going to an outlet.
A cheaper store or to clearance.
Like,
or to outlet,
I can find it easy like that. Now, there are some specific things, like if you're looking for something from a specific decade, like jorts, for instance, are a little bit easier to find sometimes thrifted because they're not as big now.
There are people that are paying more in thrift stores than if you went in a regular store and just bought it
for
on
people
sale.
that like designer, you can find designer cheaper in a thrift store.
But how? Like, to me, that's counterintuitive. So you are cheap, but you're trying to find designer. Like, to me, it's
about the look of the clothes, not the money necessarily. Like, you're not going to spend $3,000 on something,
like
but
a certain.
Yeah, like you like a certain brand, you like a certain way that they make their clothes, or like, maybe. And I will say the quality of higher brand clothes is better, but for a kid, they're going to grow out of it. So that's pointless. But for an adult, like, I will buy something that's a little bit more expensive because I know the quality is good. If you get something from Fashion Nova or Shein, the quality is going to be dog food.
But like most of the time when you buy something like that, you're buying it to wear one time and you don't care, which is bad for the environment. So please don't come for us environmentalists. We already know.
Capitalism is bad for the environment. Like,
but
at this point,
what I would like to say about buying designer for children and young people, some of y'all need to spend some of that money on tutoring, making sure they brush their teeth. Yeah, take them to the dentist.
Getting their hair cut.
Go get their hair done. Like that. Yeah, spend that on kids. I think, because I do think, especially young ladies, their appearance has a lot to do with their self-esteem. So spend that money on tutoring, make them smarter.
Braces.
Spend that money on their health care. Spend that money on even their appearance. There's nothing wrong with that. And I don't mean going and paying $100 for them to get nails done. I mean, like, making sure that their hair is nice and well groomed. It ain't got to be fancy. They don't need bust downs and lace fronts and stuff in middle school and high school. That's up to you if you want to do that. But
high school, that's different. But continue.
Even in high school, them coming in there with it's a little bit much. But anyway, my point is there's places and things that you could better spend that money on if you are a parent, because it hurts my feelings when I see a child that's G'd up and queued down, but they can barely read, and I'm thinking, they needed to spend that money at Huntington
or
somewhere where
they're
you could get some
dependent
help.
on school lunch, but like they have on Gucci clothes.
That
makes no sense.
part, and I do not want to economically shame anybody, but
no, that's not economic. You should be saving your money for better things. If
you are needing public assistance in a certain kind of way, then you should not be one of those people that only wear designer. Like, let's just be real. As a taxpaying citizen, I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
You should be spending money on work.
Feel how you want to feel.
You're going to have to buy diapers, formula, baby food, toys.
Yeah.
I think a kid would much rather have a fun, expensive toy versus an expensive outfit.
Yeah. And even with that, some of the toys, when they're older.
Most of the time, they want to play with the box the toy came in.
Yeah.
So.
Honey, let me give you that bit of advice. When you got young kids, you could find something in the house that's going to entertain them just as quick as spending all that money on some of these toys. Like, for real. Like, you could make your own until they get to be, I would say, from birth to about 3, you could make toys. Now, there's a new breed of kid that is addicted to the phones and addicted to
iPad kids.
Yeah, that's not good. Let me just throw that out there. That's not good either, because when they go to school, that instant gratification and constant stimulation that they get from the phone and from the TV and whatever stuff, when a teacher needs them to sit down and pay attention and behave, if you have not instilled that in them at home, you're going to have a problem and your child is going to suffer for that. So take the phone from them, take the iPad, whatever it is that you're letting them look at, and read a book. Make them sit down, let them do an activity with you. Like, you got to prepare your child for school. That's a segue, but anyway, or that's a off-track topic, yeah. But anyway.
But on to Gemini Gems, on the topic of kids and taking care of them. Something that you told me a long time ago, I'm saying this from somebody told me I don't have kids, I'm not gonna have kids soon. No. But if I were to babysit a child right now, I would pre-wash the clothes that I buy for them, because a lot of kids have sensitive skin. Stuff can irritate them. I think I was allergic to wool or something as a kid.
We found out.
So pre-washing clothes, just make sure they're not getting into anything they're not supposed to get into. And I think there's a way you can like make their clothes smell a little bit more pleasant, soften it a little bit.
Yeah, because there's inks and stuff that.
And there's like a lot of times you'll have the hot pink clothes or whatever, and it'll bleed. And
yeah. So, yeah, pre-washing definitely. And when you do your pre-wash, I found out, and I'm not getting, this is not a paid endorsement. It was just from personal experience. And this has been like 22 years ago. But Dreft as a detergent for babies, it is specifically formulated for baby clothes. I found out that it makes the clothes softer. It also, I think, takes out stains that other detergents don't, because I kind of noticed that. And then if you pre-wash the baby's clothes in Dreft, to me, it kind of stain-proof the clothes. Now, all of this is completely hypothetical based on my personal experience, but Dreft, it was the detergent that I use for I initially started out just using them for your clothes, and then when I saw how good they were at stain proof and stuff, I started doing all the laundry with Dreft, but it's a little pricey. Like, it costs a little bit more than other detergents sometimes, so I didn't keep that up. But when you were a baby, my theory was you were wearing the clothes and then I was holding you, so my clothes needed to also be soft. So I washed everything in Dreft, and I do think that it's a good quality detergent for baby clothes. So there you have it.
Yeah. Well, neither one of us will be mothers. Well, you won't be a mother again.
I will never be a mother again.
You'll continue to be a mother to me, but you won't be a mother again.
But I will never be a mother again.
Yeah, so when you're watching my future kids in 10 years, then, we can apply these tips. But don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Period.